Hey y'all, it's Brandon with Voodoo Forge. Now, you know that blacksmiths hit lots of things with a hammer. I think that's pretty normal, is using a hammer to shape steel, but sometimes blacksmiths and anybody with a shop needs to hit something with something that's hammer-like, but not quite a hammer. Something like this. Are you confused yet? I'll try to explain it. Here you can see the dizzying array of hammer-like things that I have in my shop. And they all serve a different purpose. Now when I say hammer-like but not a hammer, when I'm talking about a hammer in the blacksmith shop, I'm talking about something like this cross-peen hammer. So the face is hardened, at least the face. And the peen, this is a cross peen. The cross peen's hardened. And this is made for hitting the work material itself. When it's hot, hitting hot material and forging it into shape. Now, this is a hammer. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a hammer. Of course, I have, claw hammers, carpenter's hammers, things like that too. But this is a softened hammer. Now, what that means is I took the head of this hammer and I softened it, I annealed it. I took this head and I heated it up to critical temperature. That's when the steel can change on a molecular level. And then I buried it in vermiculite and let it slow cool, and that softened it so it's soft. And I use this when I'm hitting hardened steel that is not hot. Like sometimes you should never hit a hammer with another hammer, but sometimes you need to. But when you do this, make sure you wear safety glasses and use a softened hammer. The softened hammer will keep the hardened hammer from chipping. That's the best way to explain that to you. And this is probably going to be the hardest non-hammer, hammer-like thing that I have to explain to you. So we'll go on to something more simple now. Sometimes you need something that is even softer than a softened steel hammer. And I have a brass hammer. I'm also going to make a couple of these in an upcoming video. But I have a brass hammer. And this is, sometimes I'll be straightening something out in a project that's not hot. And I need to knock it, kind of tweak something. But I don't want to mar the finish or a twist or something that's engraved in there. So a brass hammer is very good for that. Also, if you're working on machinery and you've got to drive a pin out or something, sometimes if you're using a brass punch or something, a brass hammer is really good for that. Okay, so this one's kind of weird. Years ago, a guy came up to a booth when I was set up, I think at the Nashville Flea Market. And he said, "Hey man, you want to buy this?" And I looked at it and I said, "I don't know what that is." And we talked for a little while and he goes, "You can just have it." And it's this hexagon mild steel stock, well maybe tool steel, I don't know, hexagon stock. And it is welded to, I don't know what this is, but it's not aluminum, it's magnetic, I don't know, some kind of alloy, I imagine. But I use this when I'm going to hit something that will probably damage the hammer. I don't use this blacksmithing. I mostly use this like knocking things apart. So kind of for demolition kind of stuff, because I don't care what happens to the faces on it. But it is a hammer-like thing that is not a hammer. And that kind of wraps us around to mallets. These are rubber mallets. This one stays in the toolbox on my trailer. I use it for taking my big tent apart. This one I have had, oh Lord, I got this for Christmas when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And it is not for hitting things anymore. It is for hanging on the pegboard and reminiscing about where my life has gone. But anyway, rubber mallets, are clearly not for hitting hot steel. I don't hit steel with them. I just use them when you've got to knock things around. But it's important to have them in the shop, because I know it's hard to believe, but when you're a blacksmith, your entire day, every day, is not spent forging things. You end up working on tools and building tools a lot. So mallets are important for that. Also, on the non-marring end of things are dead blow hammers. Now, clearly you don't use this forging, but you use this working on things. Anytime you need to hit something that you don't want to beat up, but you need to just motivate just a little bit, a dead blow hammer is great. Clearly, because they are synthetic, you're not going to hit anything hot, but I don't know. I can't imagine having a shop of any kind without a dead blow hammer. And you can get them very cheap. A dead blow hammer is a tool that you can get a cheap one and it will do you fine. If you don't have a body shop restoring, classic muscle cars or, just some really high-end shop where you're using a dead blow hammer daily, you probably don't need to spend $80 on a tool truck dead blow hammer. As a matter of fact, there might be something wrong with you if you spend that much money on a dead blow hammer. The cheap ones are fine. Get a dead blow hammer. They're great. They're useful. You use it. You'll find things to hit with it. Now that leads us to what I am convinced is the star of the show in our blacksmith shop, and that is these split head and rawhide weighted mallets. There's a few different manufacturers that make these. I'm a big fan of the Garland, but this one is a Chicago rawhide. That company is still in business. They don't make these anymore, I don't believe, but Garland still makes both types of these, the split head and the solid head. And what these are is it's a progression. This is the size number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the smallest one, the number 1, the face of it is 1.25 inches. The number 2, it's 1.5 inches. The number 3, 1.75 inches. The number 4 is 2 inches, and the number 5 is 2 3/4 inches. They also go up in weight as they get larger. The 1 being 1.5 pounds, the 2 being 2 pounds, the 3 being 2.5 pounds, 2 3/4 pounds. Excuse me. The 4 being 4 pounds, and the 5 being 6.5 pounds. So in reality, the number 2 and the number 3, really the number 3 is the one I use the most. It's the one right in the middle, and it gets used the most. It and the number 2. The number 4 and 5 barely get used. I actually just got the number 5. If you keep your eye open, you can find these pretty cheap. If you buy a new one, they're fairly expensive. Well, I mean, if it's a tool you're going to use, I guess it's not fairly expensive. When you buy these, you'll have them for life because these leather heads are replaceable. And you can also, these are urethane faces that go in the number 4 here. And you can get copper faces. You can get several different ones. Now the faces cost, it depends on how big they get. The ones for the number 3 are close to $30 a piece for a set of faces. There's several places you can get them on the internet. The one just disappeared out of my number 1. A face disappeared out of it a while back. And I don't use it that much, but I wanted it to have 2 faces in it. So I found some on eBay, which were Nicholson faces made by Nicholson, the file people. And it's dated April 1970, paid about $20 shipping and all. And I've got a extra face in here for when this one finally wears out. But like I said, Garland still makes them. This is a set of Garland faces for the number 3. There's a British company called Thor, and they make a split face hammer, and these are some of theirs. They're supposed to be the same size as the Garland, but I have got to replace the faces in this one, and they last a long time. Matter of fact, they last so long I don't remember how I changed them last time, so it's going to be a little experimental. But the great thing about these is you can use these on hot steel without them melting. I mean, they burn, they stink. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but it won't mar it. So I'll show you a little bit of doing that. But right now, let's replace the faces in this number 3. Just so you can see what we're doing here. These leather faces have got to come out so I can press these leather faces back in there. Leather face, not like Texas Chainsaw leather face, like leather mallet face. So I believe I can drive it out that way, but before I do, I want to cut where this is mushroomed out off. I'm going to use my bandsaw to cut some of that off, and then I'm going to try to drive that out of there. Man, it's been like 8 years since I've done this, so. I think this will fit in here. It's a little piece of scrap. Got a weird angle you got to hit it at. Seems to have moved it a little bit. Let's go in from this side. Oh, that's awkward. That is awkward. Let's get this on a vise. Well, apparently I didn't have my camera on when I got the first side out, but this side should come out the same way. That little slot right there in the back, I'm just taking this piece of scrap stock and tapping it. the side I didn't film came out easier. What's happening here? Let's tap it from this side, see what happens. Always, man, the other one popped right out. Of course. There we go. Okay, it's moving. You can see the little slot that I'm tapping in there. Swing it back. You can see it is coming. There's a little metal plate in the back, and that's what's getting kind of teetery in there. I'll show you when I get it all the way out. Well, that has about got it. There we go. So here are our pieces that came out. You can see the back. These metal pieces have the little like teeth that go in there and help spread it out. So that will go back in like that. Our new face will go on top. You know what? I'm going to try the Thor faces. These are some of the English Thor faces. They're supposed to work as good. So, and then put them in the press and press them home. I'm going to do these one at a time. Ah, come on, get in there. Now, last time I did this, I think I used an arbor press. check it. It's not up there all the way. Get back in there. I'm trying not to rush this too much. It feels like it should be enough. And I think it is. That's one side in. Let's put the other side in. Same concept. This piece right here goes in, and our leather piece goes in. Come on, let's turn the valve to tighten this thing. Now this is the same press that has a pneumatic jack on it, but I don't want to bring an airline over here right now. Okay. Okay, so I can feel it going in good now with my finger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that there until it stops traveling. Dog just got excited about something. Alright. That is that. Those are seated. I'm probably good for another 7-8 years anyway. Now I know you're still trying to figure out when exactly you would use one of these leather face things. So I'm going to show you. First of all, you get a wooden block, or you can use your anvil stand, or have a stump that sits nearby the anvil. Because if you don't want to mar it with the hammer, you don't want to mar it with the anvil either. So I've got a wooden block I've stuck on here. Now we're going to straighten out some hot twisted material. So here we go. Here's our hot twisted material. Get everything nice and in line here. And that's it. That is when you would use this. Just for the record, the split head ones are a lot easier to change. You just undo the nut at the bottom and the head opens up, and you can just swap them right out. So these weighted rawhide hammers, mallets, whatever they are, were originally developed for using in foundries, knocking molds off of things. So they're made for a hot environment. People use them for lots of things. I did a little poking around on the internet, and they talk about taking spinner wheels off and using them with wood chisels. I mean, people use these for a lot of things, but specifically that weighted leather, it might not be meant for it, but really handy in the blacksmith shop. And like I said, you can find these things. You can order them online. They still make them. But if you keep your eye open at old sales, machine shops, when they get done, flea markets, things like that, you can usually get them pretty cheap because people don't know what they are. And if it needs faces, don't worry about it. You can order them online. You can make your own out of copper or brass or whatever material you think you can get to grip in there. You can make wooden ones. Seen a guy make them out of turned maple, and that would work just as well as the leather, and be a lot cheaper because you're making them yourself. So a lot of options with these things. Y'all, I certainly hope that this has opened your eyes to some of the hammer-like things that you find in a blacksmith shop and other shops too. This is clearly, I'm not an expert across the boards. I'm not even a blacksmithing expert. But, so what is your favorite hammer-like thing? Tell me below. Anyway, I hope y'all got something out of this and y'all behave yourselves. I have no idea if this is a good idea, bad idea. Oh, this is a bad idea. Son of a bitch. As you can see, it is coming, and there's a metal plate back there. Focus.